This week, 247 Sports released something that I always look forward to, and I'm glad they spend the time doing it so I don't have to go through all 300 and some odd picks to find out where every single one of these guys who were chosen in the NFL draft played their high school ball at what state. Because what I think is the barometer to test how good high school football is in your state is how many of those kids eventually get drafted into the NFL. There's not a better grading scale, if you will, to determine the health of a state's high school football than to see the numbers in the NFL draft. Do you agree or disagree with that, JR?
I would agree. I think that some states benefit a little bit more from people around them coming into them. Texas and Florida come to mind as states that can sometimes get other students to come maybe their middle school year, their freshman year after high school, and say I have a future, and they go to a prestigious school. Thinking of programs like IMG that they heavily recruit their guys to come in there. So I do think it's a bit skewed in that way. So that is a portion there, but overall, I mean, we're not going to find a perfect system, and this is definitely one that I use as well to try to figure out talent in the state.
Chris, you got any thoughts on that?
Yep, I agree. I think it's a great way to evaluate how much talent you have in the state. I mean, a lot of times I think people talk about the star ratings of the guys as they enter college, but I think that's a skewed system. I really do. I think that this is a much better way to determine just how great school is or high school football is in the state.
Yeah, this is another good one, JR. Look at this one. Bobby McCormick brings it up. What about Chris Henry, who will now be classified as California? I think that affects the state's grading. Absolutely.
Sure, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The corner that went down to Texas from Ohio, Dorian Brew, I
Mm-hmm.
think he's another one that will eventually be an NFL player.
Yeah, you're right. So yeah, Ohio 775. Can you guys start over? Well, Devin,
We just got started,
we
Devin.
We
really
just
haven't
got
got
started.
we really haven't said about anything. So we're just gonna dive right into this. So here we go. So this is the graphic that 247 Sports released. I was gonna break this down by state and go individually for the state, but I'm not gonna do that tonight because Chris is going to dominate this show with a top 10 that is sure to get the chat going, as we would say.
It's not my
Uh,
fault.
but that being, it is your fault. But that being said, I'm going to let's break this down by state a little bit, okay? Number one, and this is just, I mean, it goes without saying, they're either one or two or three every single year, but it's Florida, right? And 30 guys from high school were drafted, and not from high school, but who played their ball in high school, eventually were drafted in this past year's 2024 NFL draft. 30 guys. Now, what I'm about to say is going to be controversial, and I'm okay with that. And if you're a Florida fan or someone from Florida sees this and wants to disagree with me on this, I'm open to having a civil conversation on it. But I believe 30 is too low for your state, given the advantages that you have. Do you agree or disagree?
I mean, what have they done in the past? I'm forgetting off the top of my head what they've done. I've been impressed by a number of states in the Midwest. Ohio obviously leads them with 10, but I mean, we're looking at states like New York with 5, New Jersey. Guys, New Jersey is becoming quite the area. I had a
Yeah.
Rutgers guy I was talking
Yeah.
about, or I was talking with the other day, and there's a reason why Ohio State is really trying to solidify New Jersey as a pipeline state for them. Now, the problem is that they do not always get the best offensive and defensive line talent out of there. That's actually been one of the issues that Rutgers has had in the past. But you've seen Rutgers this year, and I know this isn't a Big Ten show, but I'm just saying for recruiting purposes, you've seen Rutgers improve their skill positions a little bit more. And and that's certainly helped them in those areas. But in addition to that, Indiana is getting much more players. Illinois getting much more players up there. And I think it really comes down to the fact that a lot of these Midwest states are allowing for Ohio to be, or not Ohio, for football to be played year round. You see a lot of the 7-on-7 stuff happening in Ohio right now, and you're seeing other states also put more of an emphasis on this because let's face it, at the end of the day, these southern states can play football all year round. I mean, the weather is always there. If anything, it's just too hot sometimes. But these states, Illinois, Indiana, they're allowing, even when it's a little bit colder and even when maybe it's not the best weather, they're allowing their guys to get out there and continue to practice their craft. And you can tell it's really improving here. So I'm fine with Florida being lower if it means that the Midwest is getting more talent out there for the NFL draft.
I don't.
Florida's had the 7-on-7 for quite a while, haven't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a huge advantage, obviously.
Them
Here's
in Texas and California hold a lot of 7-on-7 tournaments, which makes a big deal.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: you have 4 Power 4 schools in the state of Florida. Florida,
Yes.
FSU, Miami, UCF. A lot of people forget that UCF is now a Power 4. And if you talk to uh, our guys over at the College Huddle who run the UCF, they will not let you forget that they feel they run the state. So, which I love. But Florida having 30, I think, is interesting. It's kind of, to me, there's a debate there that's too low. Looking at the next one, I think it's Texas, right? Was 2.
Yeah.
Texas with 24. That makes sense to me. Georgia with 23 at third. We all know that Georgia is an up and coming state. Does it surprise you that they only had one less than the big bad Texas, where everybody knows high school football is king?
That's actually what I was going to say is that
Mhm.
I thought Texas was too low. You
Yeah.
look at how big that state is, how big high school football is in that state. Heck, guys, we have stadiums in Texas that are larger than Power 4, Power 2 stadiums in college football. I mean, Texas, that's slacking to me. 30 in Florida, sure, we can talk about how that's slacking a little bit. 24 in Texas, that's not enough.
So we have. I got to ask this guy a question. Ryan Day's beard is in the house. This comes from Purdue. Now I know the answer to this, but this question is from Dylan from Purdue. He wants to know, Ryan Day's beard, do you have a little just for men in that thing, or is that all natural? That jet black, beautiful mane of yours that's on your face. I gotta ask that question.
I feel very
Um,
uncomfortable with that question you just asked, Eric. It's a little creepy, dude. Little creepy. Yeah.
all right, now where I'm totally gonna bag on a state is California, man.
Yeah.
18, dude. I thought California was supposed to be like the big 3. They're not. I, do you guys agree with me that California is just like? I mean, come on. This is year number what, 3? And at UC with Lincoln.
Yes.
Okay. Where's this going? Like, I thought California was supposed to be just this amazing place. Oregon obviously stealing recruits from there. You know, is Jr. frozen by chance?
Either that or he's just really happy.
He thinks Jr.'s frozen. He saw that question from Ryan Day's beard. It just shocked him. He's frozen. Um, 18 for California, way too low.
Yeah, I agree. That's first of all, you've got a tremendously populous state. How that's even possible, I don't even know. You've got traditional high school powerhouses out there. I don't get how that's such a low number.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. New Jersey with 11. That was one of the things that JR was talking about before he got frozen there.
Yeah,
That's big. That's big time for New Jersey. I think when Shiano sees that, he's got to feel good about what he's doing over at Rutgers, right?
oh, absolutely,
Like,
absolutely. I'm not, and like Jared was saying, I'm not surprised. I'd love to see him get If they ever get offensive line talent homegrown out of that state, oh my goodness, Eric, they're going to be a juggernaut.
I
They
think
really
so.
are because Shiano's got them headed in the right direction. Like Jr. was saying, they've got some quality skill position guys, some quality defensive guys. Yeah, if they ever get the guys coming in, the big uglies here on the line, they're going to be a scary team to contend with.
Completely. Ohio's next. I I want to, Chris. I want to say that this is probably acceptable, but is it?
It's a little disappointing to me.
I mean, we're sixth.
Yeah,
We're tied with North Carolina and Alabama at 10. So, you know,
but you look
you
at the schools we've got in this state, Eric. I mean, really, I just feel like we should be doing more. I really do. I think that as the 7-on-7 takes off, that is now permitted in Ohio. I think more guys are going to hone their talents, and obviously, I think we'll see that number increase somewhat. But I just feel there's too much talent in the state of Ohio for this number to be that low. Um, I feel like we should be over top of states like New Jersey and Maryland. You know,
thank you,
Maryland's
Tyler. Yeah,
Maryland comes in with 10 as well. So
yeah. Tyler's pointed out that Louisiana was at 11 with New Jersey. Thank you for pointing that
yes,
out. But you know, I would say, given some of the weather disadvantages that Ohio
yes,
has, um, I see. This is where I was coming in, Donald. I
yeah.
agree. I feel like Ohio might be a little bit too low there. I mean, Ohio at times, Jr. I know you've looked at these numbers too in the past. At times, Ohio's been as high as like fourth on this list.
I don't know if I ever saw fourth, but at least fifth I saw one year. Sixth a couple times, but yeah, no, there is definitely stuff happening with Ohio having some talent taken out of there and going to different places, like we mentioned, Chris Henry, Dorian Brew, guys like that. That is making a difference here. So I do think that Ohio, like we've talked about, well, I don't know if we've talked about it, but I've heard other people talk about it a lot. The 7-on-7 stuff happening. Trey McNutt. I really, really think that Trey McNutt, what he did, and with the 7-on-7 and the stand he was willing to take by himself too. This was not somebody that had a group of guys that went with him. He put his high school football career at risk for younger players in the state of Ohio. Normally I'm somebody that says stay within the rules and try to change things, but I mean I can't argue with what Trey McNutt did here. He's really changed a whole lot of things for the entire state and athletes coming up that now they're going to be able to do 7-on-7 and really take the OHSAA and say, guys, stop being stupid. Let's let the kids play the sports they want to play. Let's stop being what's the word? A dictatorship here and tell everybody what they have to do. Let the kids play what they want to play. Sorry if tennis suffers, but at the end of the day, if a kid's going to be a 5-star wide receiver, make him a 5-star wide receiver. Let him play.
You
Bobby
know. Oh, go ahead, Eric.
Bobby Carpenter has done a lot to fight the OHSAA. And he
Yes.
has a very good platform in which to do it from on 97.1 The Fan. And so I'd like to give Bobby some kudos for that. But yes, go ahead, Chris.
Well, no, I was just going to say, you look to this is based on how many guys went in this year's draft.
Sure.
So let's just say that some of these guys who didn't come back, a Jack Sawyer, a Ty Hamilton, all of a sudden you're at 12. Those are two guys from Pickerington right there who would have changed the outlook of that. So I think some of these guys coming back this year definitely affected that number a little bit as well.
What I didn't have time to look up on this list is how many of those 10 from Ohio actually played at that school up north.
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head guys from Ohio that were drafted from
Well, they had
Michigan.
71 seniors or something like that this year. So.
Yeah. So
would be.
just something
I just
interesting
looked
to
up
look at.
I just looked up the number of Ohio players drafted the past 10 years. I don't think this includes this draft. Let me check and make sure. Uh, April 22nd, 2024. So, no, it did. Or was that before or after the draft? I think that was
Draft was
before.
25th.
Okay, so this is before. So the last 11 years, you would have had 119 players drafted, including this draft. The past 11 years, 119 players drafted from the state of Ohio. This is just a little bit below that average. I think that average would be just a little bit below 11. So at the end of the day, I agree it does seem low, but maybe Ohio has just fluctuated from year to year, because yeah they generally average 10 or 11.
So, if you follow Ohio high school sports, specifically football, you know that Ohio's always rivaled Pennsylvania. The Ohio Pennsylvania All Star game used to be an absolute
Mhm.
monster thing. Woody Hayes and Joe Paterno had some epic recruiting battles between the two of them on the border there in eastern Ohio and western Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh area, Erie, PA, over there in um, Ashtabula County, up in Cleveland, over all the way over into Youngstown
Mhm.
area. These are battleground areas where Woody and Joe Paul went at it. And the Ohio Pennsylvania All Star Game used to be an absolute monster event. To see Pennsylvania fall off the map like it has in Ohio high school or in a high school football is incredible to see, especially when you not only have, like I said, Erie and Pittsburgh, but you have the East Coast in
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia,
Yeah.
which, as we know, is where Marvin Harrison Jr. played his high school ball with McCord. And so there's some really good high school football there. That to me is incredibly interesting. But then, as I've been doing some of these border wars research, which if you aren't familiar with what we do in the off season, one of the things we do here at the OHL podcast is we dive deep into high school recruiting with our bordered states. So the state up north, Indiana, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, we'll dive into it with them. West Virginia, not really someone we ever really talk a whole lot about with recruiting. Um, but it's incredibly interesting to me to see how California's fallen off the map. Now, how things have changed a little bit is ever since Urban has come on board, recruiting for Ohio State has gone from an emphasis of regionally to let's go national with our recruiting. The brand of Ohio State has never been stronger than it is today. Recruiting has never been better as far as just the overall talent that's being brought into this program than it is today. Even after Urban retired, I thought for sure we might take a small step back. We have not. Ryan Day continues to kill it on the recruiting trail with people like Walton helping him out on the defensive side, and of course Brian Hartline at wide receiver, who is just absolutely killing it. So you take all of that into account, and then you look at these numbers, and some of it can be affected by what I just said. Because if you stop and you think about it, Ohio State still is a great developer of talent. And when you're developing talent from high schools now, from all across the country, and not as many kids from the state of Ohio, that's going to affect these numbers. Am I right or wrong, JR?
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, and let's also not forget that like you said, under Urban, it got, it definitely wasn't what it was under Tressel, but under Ryan Day, it's become even less so. Ryan Day has gone outside of the state of Ohio even more than other people have, in his tenure. So, I mean, we can do a debate and a war about that if we want. I say get the best players you possibly can and then supplement with guys from Ohio. Like, I mean, this is going really, really deep into recruiting stuff, so I don't know if we want to get this far. But, I love the hire of Carlos Loughlin, but he's kind of going out to Virginia looking at some 3-star running backs out there. And I'm like, dude, we got 3-star running backs in Ohio you could go be looking at right now. So, I'm not trying to say that, Ohio State shouldn't be outside of the state of Ohio. I think you do that for the best of your best guys. But for culture, I think you got to stay in Ohio and really look at some of these lower level guys to supplement in some of your ways. Justin Fry's been going out and getting 3 stars from Ohio and saying these are my guys. I'd love for some of the better recruiters like a Brian Hartline to at least get one wide receiver from Ohio, Tim Walton to get one cornerback, one Matt Gurrier get one safety from Ohio that maybe is a little bit more underrated that you see some potential with. And if he transfers, he transfers. It is what it is, but give him a shot.
Chris, any thoughts?
No, I agree. I am somebody who does like to see more kids from Ohio, um, especially guys along that line, because I feel like I feel like it's great to get those fast skill position guys from out of state. I think that's great. If we're competing on the national level, we have to have that speed. But man, on that line, they just don't have. It seems like we don't have the toughness that we used to, and I think a lot of that comes from not getting the kids from Ohio. That toughness, that physicality, that just that mental, mental nastiness that I think we lose not having those Ohio kids all up on that line.
Definitely something that needs to be explored and talked about a little bit more. And we will do that. Make sure you check out those Border War episodes. They're going to be coming in your way right here on our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe, ring the bell, get notified so you'll never miss one of those when they do drop.